All right, so let's dive right into the world of AI today, and we're talking about Deepseek.
Deepseek, yeah.
This company that's been making waves and causing a stir in the AI scene. You probably heard of OpenAI.
Right.
The big player.
Yeah, the big one.
But Deepseek is quickly gaining ground, and today we're going to figure out just how they're doing that.
It's a really fascinating story. You know, what we're seeing with Deepseek is potentially a prime example of something called knowledge distillation in action. And it's a technique that has got everyone buzzing from the tech giants all the way up to government agencies.
Knowledge distillation.
Yeah.
Sounds like some kind of secret recipe for AI success.
Kind of, yeah.
What is the deal with that?
So imagine you're trying to bake a cake, right? You could experiment with all different ingredients and methods for years and years, or you could learn from an expert baker who's already perfected the recipe.
Okay.
Knowledge distillation is kind of like that for AI.
So instead of starting from scratch, Deepseek might have learned from a more established AI.
Think of it like this. You have a really powerful AI, a teacher model, that's been trained on tons and tons of data.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly accurate, but it's also huge. It's slow to run. That's where the student model comes in.
Okay, so how does the student learn from the teacher without becoming just as big and slow?
That's where the distillation part comes in. So instead of just copying the teacher's knowledge outright, the student model actually learns from the teacher's reasoning.
Right. Yeah.
So instead of the teacher AI just saying, this is a cat, it might say something like, I'm 85% sure this is a cat and 5% sure it's a dog.
Oh, so it's giving like a probability.
Yeah, like a level of confidence in its answer.
That's pretty cool.
Right. And these soft answers, they allow the student AI to understand the subtle relationships between different categories and learn to make those similar judgments. So the student model still trains on real data, but by also learning from these soft answers, it can become remarkably accurate while being much smaller and faster.
I'm starting to get the picture here.
Yeah.
This knowledge distillation could be a real game changer. But the question is, did Deepseek actually use OpenAI as their teacher?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's why everyone is so interested in this story. So OpenAI, they provide access to their models and data sets through something called APIs. Think of these as specialized tools that anyone can use for a fee.
So is that how Deepseek potentially got a leg up? By using OpenAI's tools for this knowledge distillation process?
That's what some people suspect.
Okay.
The question is whether they use those tools on a massive scale, essentially leveraging all of OpenAI's work without explicit permission.
So it's not about whether they could do it, but whether they did it in a way that might cross some lines.
Right, exactly.
I can see why that would raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's why Microsoft, OpenAI, even the U.S. government are looking into this. It all hinges on the terms of use for those APIs and whether Deepseek might have pushed those boundaries a little too far.
This is getting really interesting. We got potential power moves, investigations, a technology that could completely change the game. What does this all mean for the average person?
Well, the implications of knowledge distillation go far beyond just Deepseek and OpenAI. This technique has the potential to democratize AI development in a big way.
Democratize?
Yeah.
You mean make it more accessible?
Exactly. Smaller companies, startups, even individual developers could leverage knowledge distillation to create really powerful AI models without needing the massive resources of a company like OpenAI.
So instead of a few big players controlling the AI landscape, we might see a lot more competition and innovation coming from all directions.
Precisely. But of course, there's always another side to the coin.
You mean potential downsides or challenges?
Yeah. What are we looking at here?
What are we looking at?
Well, as with any powerful technology, there are questions about responsible use and potential unintended consequences. So think about it. If knowledge distillation makes AI development more accessible, we need to consider the implications of that.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's not just about making AI easier to create. It's about making sure it's created and used responsibly.
Right.
So what kind of specific challenges are we talking about?
One of the big ones is understanding the potential for misuse. So if knowledge distillation makes it easier for anyone to create powerful AI models, we need to consider the possibility that it could be used for harmful purposes.
Oh, wow. So that's
things like creating deep fakes or generating spam on a massive scale.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just because a technology can be used for good doesn't mean that it always will be.
Right.
Sounds like we're at a crossroads with this.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of excitement about the potential of knowledge distillation, but it also raises a lot of really important questions.
So what are some of the key questions that we should be asking ourselves as we move forward with this?
Well, we need to think about things like, how do we balance the benefits of democratizing AI development with the need to prevent its misuse? What kind of regulations or ethical guidelines might be needed to ensure that this technology is used responsibly?
And how do we as individuals and as a society stay informed and engaged in this conversation?
Absolutely. This isn't just a discussion for tech experts or policymakers. It's something that affects all of us, and we all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
We've definitely given us a lot to think about already. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details of knowledge distillation to the potential impact it could have on the AI landscape and society as a whole. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve deeper into some specific examples of how knowledge distillation is being used today and explore the potential risks and benefits in more detail. So we've established that knowledge distillation has the potential to really shake things up in the AI world. But let's get a bit more concrete. Where are we actually seeing this technology being used today?
Well, knowledge distillation is already being applied in a surprisingly wide range of fields. One area where it's showing a lot of promise is in natural language processing.
Okay.
The technology behind things like chatbots and language translation.
Oh, so the stuff that powers our daily interactions with AI, like asking Siri a question or using Google Translate.
Exactly. Researchers are using knowledge distillation to create more efficient language models that can handle these complex tasks without needing a ton of computing power.
So instead of relying on huge, power-hungry AI models in the cloud, we could have these smaller, faster models running right on our devices.
Yeah, imagine a language translator on your phone that works offline and doesn't drain your battery in minutes. That's the kind of potential we're talking about.
That's a game changer, especially for people in areas with limited internet access or who need that reliable translation on the go. Are there other areas where knowledge distillation is making an impact?
Absolutely. Another area where it's gaining a lot of traction is in self-driving cars.
Okay.
These vehicles rely on incredibly complex AI models to perceive their surroundings and make those split-second decisions.
So by using knowledge distillation, could we make those AI models more efficient and potentially even safer?
Precisely, smaller, faster models mean quicker reaction times, which could be crucial in preventing accidents.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've got potential applications in language processing, self-driving cars. Are there any limits to where this technology could be applied?
It's really hard to say for sure. I mean, the potential is vast anywhere. You have a large, complex AI model. Knowledge distillation could be used to create a smaller, faster version without sacrificing too much accuracy. We're talking about everything from medical diagnosis to financial modeling to even personalized education.
Wow, we've only just begun to scratch the surface of what's possible. It's pretty exciting to think about all the ways this technology could change our lives for the better.
It is exciting, but we also need to be mindful of the potential downsides. Like we discussed earlier, there are those questions about responsible use and the potential for misuse.
Let's delve into that a bit further. What are some concrete examples of how knowledge distillation could be misused, and what are the potential consequences we're looking at?
Well, one concern is the potential for malicious actors to use this technology to create more convincing deepfakes or to generate spam and misinformation at an unprecedented scale.
So if it's easier to create powerful AI models, it's also easier to create powerful tools for deception and manipulation.
That's right.
That's a scary thought.
It is a valid concern, and it's why those discussions around ethical guidelines and regulations are so important.
It seems like with every step forward in AI, we also need to be thinking about the potential pitfalls and how to safeguard against them. Are there other potential downsides that we should be aware of?
Another challenge is the potential for unintended consequences. Even with the best intentions, there's always a risk that these AI systems could behave in ways that we didn't anticipate.
So we might create a system that we think is going to solve a problem, but it ends up causing new problems that we hadn't even considered.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to thoroughly test AI systems and to have mechanisms in place to monitor their behavior and intervene if necessary.
It sounds like a constant balancing act, trying to unlock the potential of this technology while also mitigating the risks. How do we even begin to tackle such a complex challenge?
Well, it's a multifaceted problem that requires a really collaborative approach. Researchers, developers, policymakers, and the public all need to be part of the conversation. We need to be thinking about things like transparency, accountability, and human oversight.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but about the values and principles that guide its development and deployment.
Precisely. We need to be asking ourselves tough questions like, how do we ensure that AI systems are aligned with human values? How do we build trust and ensure that AI is used for the benefit of society?
These are huge questions, and it's clear there's no easy answer. It feels like we're just at the beginning of this conversation, and there's still so much to figure out.
Yeah, it's definitely an evolving landscape and things are changing rapidly, but the more we understand about these technologies, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and opportunities they present.
I agree. Knowledge is power, especially in a field as complex as AI. So let's keep digging deeper in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore some of the ways that people are trying to address these challenges and talk about what the future of AI might hold. So we've talked about the potential benefits and risks of knowledge distillation, and it seems like we're at a really pivotal point. This technology could really change the game, but there's a lot to consider as we move forward. So where do we go from here? What are some of the steps that we can take to make sure that this technology is developed and used responsibly?
Well, it's a crucial question. One of the most important things we can do is really foster these open and honest conversations about the potential impacts of AI.
So not just talking amongst the tech experts, but bringing everyone to the table.
Exactly. We need those diverse perspectives to really anticipate potential challenges and create solutions that benefit society as a whole. And this means involving policymakers, ethicists, social scientists, and even just everyday people who are going to be impacted by these technologies.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just a tech issue, it's a societal issue. But how do we make sure that those conversations actually lead to some meaningful action?
Well, one promising approach is the development of ethical frameworks and guidelines for AI development.
So like a set of rules or principles to help guide the creation and use of AI.
Precisely. And these frameworks, they often emphasize things like transparency, fairness, accountability, and human oversight. They can really help ensure that these AI systems are aligned with human values and are used in ways that benefit society.
That sounds like a good starting point. But who is responsible for creating and enforcing these guidelines? Is it governments, tech companies, or someone else?
Well, it's a shared responsibility. Governments definitely have a role to play in setting standards and regulations. Tech companies need to prioritize those ethical considerations in their development processes, and researchers need to continue exploring the potential impacts of AI and developing tools and techniques for mitigating risks.
So it's a collaborative effort with everyone playing their part, but even with guidelines in place, how do we address that potential for unintended consequences? AI is complex, and it's hard to predict exactly how these systems will behave in the real world.
Oh, that's right, and that's where ongoing research and monitoring are so essential. We need to invest in robust testing and evaluation methods to identify potential issues before they become serious problems, and we need to have those mechanisms in place to monitor AI systems after they're deployed and intervene if necessary.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it's clearly important work.
Right.
We're talking about shaping the future of technology, and that's not something to take lightly, speaking of the future. Let's circle back to Deepseek for a moment. They've managed to shake things up, but where do they go from here? What can we expect from them in the years to come?
Yeah, it's really hard to say for certain, but I think we can expect them to continue pushing the boundaries of AI development. I mean, they've clearly demonstrated their ambition and their technical capabilities. The question is whether they'll be able to navigate those ethical challenges and maintain public trust.
So their future success might hinge on their ability to demonstrate a commitment to responsible AI development.
Absolutely. If they can show that they're not just focused on innovation, but also on using their technology for good, they have the potential to become a real leader in this field.
It's a fascinating story, and it feels like we're just at the beginning. This whole Deepseek situation has really brought the power and the complexities of knowledge distillation to light. So as we wrap up our deep dive here, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the key takeaway here is that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's something that we're all shaping together by staying informed, asking those critical questions, and engaging in these important conversations. We can help ensure that AI is used to benefit humanity and create a better future for everyone.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical intricacies of knowledge distillation to its potential impact on society. We've explored the benefits and the risks, the opportunities, and the challenges. And one thing is clear, this is just the beginning of the conversation. So to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring, keep asking questions, and be part of shaping the future of AI. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.